Hello and welcome to WJTS in.form. I'm your host, Bill Potter. Monday, April 13th is Lineman Appreciation Day. And these are folks who go out and do work at times when you really don't want to go out. I guess when the weather seems to get its worst, that's when these people have to go out and do their work. Let's find out about them. We have in the studio with us, we have Doc Denu, Doc Denu, and also joining us is Jake Wagner. They are linemen with Dubois REC, Rural Electric Cooperative. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we should, first of all, we realize you're not football players. What does a lineman do with an electric company?
Keep the lights on.
Keeps the light, yeah, okay. I guess folks get to the point where they never realize the work it takes to get the electricity to their house until they flip that switch and they don't have a light on or a storm comes through.
Correct.
How does electricity get to somebody's house? What's kind of the route? It comes from a power plant somewhere?
Well, it would go from the power plant to the distribution lines, which when I'm saying power plant, it might be 161,000 volts. And then it goes to another transformer or substation, which would step it down to 69,000. And then that steps it down to us, which would be distribution, and that would be 7,200 volts. And then our transformers step it down to 120, 240 volts to the homeowner.
Okay, now, so outside of our house, we may have a pole. And it's got the round cylinder, which is the transformer, and then it's got some other components. Can you explain maybe if somebody's looking out right now at the pole outside their house, what they're seeing?
Go ahead, Jake.
Well, it comes down off the line at 7,200 volts in the top bushing into a primary winding, and then there's a magnetic field that conducts down to the secondary windings, which puts off a 120, and then the opposite 120 volts to ground. And then from those outside lugs, you see a 240 volt difference from, we call it phase to phase. And that's what goes in to feed your house. 3 wires, a neutral, a hot, and a hot. So you have 220 volt to ground, and then the other would be 240 to the other hot leg.
Well, what I want to point out for folks is these are the guys that when the worst storm comes through, you're in the safety of your house. They are doing everything they can to keep the electricity going to your house. And usually, if lightning's going to strike a transformer, these guys are going out in the middle of that storm to find that transformer and fix it. What drives you to give of yourself like that? And really, they put their life on the line to go and do the work that you do. I'll let each of you answer that question. Maybe you're nuts, I don't know.
Well, I've heard other people say that we may be an adrenaline junkie. I mean, just go out to, get that extra rush out of getting stuff done. I don't know. It is life-threatening out there sometimes, so.
We got a job to do. Number one is safety. If it's too bad, you'll seek shelter until it isn't. And then as soon as we possibly can, we'll get the lights on to, let's say if there's a bunch of outages, to the line with the most consumers on it, and then we'll stair-step our way down from there on out. And typically working until everyone's back on.
Well, one thing I've noticed about linemen and folks that work with the electricity, you guys are really patient people, which you have to be because you've got so many steps of safety that you have to watch because you're dealing with instant death when you touch something wrong.
Correct.
Are you trained for this? What's your training?
They consider it hazardous.
Okay.
So we have a hazard, and our job is to cover up that hazard with our rubber line hose, which is a protection. It's basically a rubber gut that would fit over a line when we're working on live line. And our job, like I said, is to cover up the hazard, and then it's just a job.
Just a job. You guys look at it as just a job. Come on. Those guys are out there, up in the sky when lightning strike and doing some work. And also, you get called out at all different times.
It seems the
do you ever have any time off? I mean, when things are the worst, that's when you guys seem to go to work the most.
Yeah, that's correct.
How many Christmas Eves have you given up? And Christmas days or Easter days?
Many.
Yeah.
Many birthdays, and you don't grill out at home, and you drive separate to church, and you go separate when you're on call. I mean,
Well, because people are not as patient as you are to get the job fixed. When their lights are out, they expect them to be on instantly.
Yeah.
What are some things that folks can do, homeowners can do, businesses can do to make your job easier and safer?
I would say number one, keep the trees out from underneath the power lines and as far back, not planting them close to overhead power lines, because whenever there's a windstorm that blows through, that's the biggest problem. Tree over a line, we got to put it back up, and then if it's, you know, a bunch of trees that we can't get to the line, it's just a bear getting the line back in the air whenever it's covered in brush and trees. But
And another thing would be the when the power outages do occur, people come in with their generators and think all they've got to do is plug that generator in and they got electric. If they plug it in wrong, these transformers that we've got out there step the voltage down so that the user, the customer, can use 120, 240 volts. Well, the thing is, if they plug that generator in wrong, that transformer doesn't know any better, and it takes 120, 240, and it produces 7,200 and puts it out on the line that we're working on. So they need to be aware of that too.
Would that be for generators that are, I guess, wired into their fuse box?
Yes,
Yeah,
just,
okay, so
just a small generator that you would plug in when your
I didn't know
electric
you
is
could do
off.
that. It's probably best I didn't even. No, don't do that.
That is correct.
Have an electrician if you
That
had
is
to do
correct.
it. Call an electrician
Yes.
to come in and do that. Are you guys responsible for the line, the power to the house? I know that you got the big line that comes in with the wire that holds it up, and then it goes into your house, and then the homeowner's responsible from there down to their fuse box. How does that work?
to the meter base typically. If there's an entrance that's above ground, you have service coming to your house. A lot of times if a tree goes through that entrance wire coming in, it could sometimes rip it off. Well, it's the consumer's responsibility to put that back up, and then we would bring our line back up and tie it back in to the meter base, and then it's theirs to their breaker box into their house right after that. Underground, it's basically our wire all the way from the transformer up from underneath the ground to the meter base.
Now, what's the worst hazard that you have to deal with? I know people are hitting poles with their cars because they have an accident. Lightning strikes all the time. Snowstorms come through. Trees fall over. The wind sometimes gusts. Tornadoes. What's the worst?
Ice storm.
Ice storm.
It'd have to be the ice.
Because that takes a lot down generally,
Yes.
doesn't it?
And it's not just the ice that builds up on the lines, it's the ice that builds up on the trees, tree limbs that come across the lines.
Okay.
So, and another thing is if you got your ice buildup on the phase and the neutral, if the ice comes off the neutral first and it goes up and touches the phase, then you got your line burned down. So there's different ways that it works.
Now, it's a tough job that you do. Do you understand electricity? I mean, and I guess I should ask maybe this, is electricity understandable like lightning is not understandable?
Electricity is understandable. Do I understand it all? I'll say no, because do I know that it's coming from over here and going to this point and we got to get it from here to there? What happens internally in your microchips and stuff like that, I don't understand that. But as far as understanding the 120, 240, 277, 480, all that, I'm going to say not 100%, but yes, I understand it.
It's one of those things you don't
that's-
see it anyway.
that's it.
You never really see it. People need to, I'm sure, does it concern you if a power line goes down that people think they can just go up and touch it? I mean, you can't do that. What are some things that folks need to know? Don't touch power lines when they're down. Call REC.
Well, you can't see electricity like Doc had said earlier, so you just basically need to stay away from it. Call us, because we don't know if it's on or off either. We can't tell until we go to the fuse or breaker and check it and then ground it after that, and that's the only time we can actually consider it to be off, dead.
If a storm comes through, people lose power, should they call Dubois REC?
Definitely.
Because it kind of helps you guys pinpoint where the problems have been.
That's right.
I know I've seen where storms come through and you guys are driving with flashlights looking at transformers trying to find where the problem might be.
That's correct.
Is that the best way to find it? Sometimes you just
Probably,
gotta look.
unless somebody would call in and say, hey, we saw a big flash over here, so that narrows it down to a certain area that we could check first.
And if we miss it, when we throw that fuse or breaker back in, a lot of times at night, you can see where the fault is. So then you'll get the map out, and you'll hold the map according to the road, and you'll get an idea where that fault is at sometimes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sure. Do you prefer that we stay with the lines above the ground, or are we going more toward underground wiring?
I think underground wiring is nice because, you know, lightning messes with it, but wind and ice, you know, doesn't. The harder part about a underground fault is it takes a lot longer to fix, but an overhead, they have more maintenance.
Okay, and why do people plant trees under power lines? Why do we do that?
Some people just don't know. I mean, they don't look up.
Yeah.
That's just human nature.
So if you're going to plant a tree, look up before you do. Or if you're going to cut a tree down, how often do you have to go because somebody cut a tree down and didn't look at the power lines?
Often.
Well, that happens
Really?
too, yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know how to say this, but I think folks have to realize that these guys really are unsung heroes that really do put your life on the line when storms come through to make sure that you have the convenience of electricity. So at times I think if power's out, don't be frustrated that they didn't get your power on, because they have got a lot of work to do to get power on. And you guys, I really appreciate the work that you do and all that you do to do whatever you can to keep people's lights on in their house.
Thank you.
Monday, April 13th is Lineman Appreciation Day. Let's hope that we don't have to see them doing work on that day, but when you do see these guys out, first of all, stay away. They're doing some important work, but when you see them out in the community, thank them for the work that they do, because what they do is very important to us. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in. Anything that you'd like to add?
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yes.
All right,
Appreciate it.
These are linemen with Dubois REC. We've had Doc Denu and also Jake Wagner. They are with Dubois REC. They're out there making sure that you have electricity so you can watch 18 WJTS TV. Thanks for watching. We are WJTS, local people watching local people.